it says, a bold statement that neglects the historical context in which it was able to gather, quote-unquote, these cultures. However, there is growing awareness in recent years around the problem of weak, or in some cases, no provenance available for art and objects that sit in Western museums. Activists, some who trace their roots to once colonized countries, have initiated campaigns to seek the return of looted artifacts, and in some cases the demands have reached a state level. From the moment Napoleon set foot in Egypt in 1798, the Arab and thus Muslim world took center stage in the European imagination. In trying to understand their own place in the history of the world, the Europeans began to construct negative archetypes of the Muslims. This phenomenon, which later came to be known as Orientalism, set in motion several movements, and the collecting and exhibiting of objects from the Muslim world became a key strategy in the shaping and reshaping of the Western imagination. The army of social scientists, historians, and surveyors that joined Napoleon on his mission came, for the most part, to the same conclusion. These dark desert nomads and poverty-stricken dwellers found in the mazes of ancient cities were not the same people that once ruled the known world and pioneered the fields of science and astronomy, and they were to be treated accordingly. Today, the Louvre, the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Victoria and Albert Museum, the British Library in London, and the Pergamon Museum in Berlin house significant collections of rare and valuable objects collected from across the vast Muslim world. These collections and the museum's attempts to consolidate over 1,000 years of culture and art in a few rooms provide great insight into how these institutions still view and present Islam and the wider Muslim world, whereas the objects on display signify sophistication and historical brilliance. There is no narrative that connects the past with the present, and this is no coincidence. Muslims have always struggled to be fairly and accurately represented in the European imagination, but it is not for lack of trying. In recent years, exhibitions founded and in part narrated by organizations from within the Muslim world have attempted to correct old historical misunderstandings. In 2009, the Victoria and Albert Museum partnered with Art Jamil, a private Saudi philanthropy group, to launch the Jamil Prize competition. In 2021, it awarded first prize to Saudi artist Aslan Garim for his widely praised piece, Paradise Has Many Gates, it titles. According to artists, the title of the piece refers to the different paths to paradise described in the Quran. The artwork replicates the design of a traditional mosque, but is made of the cage-like chicken wire used for border fences and definition centers. The mosque's material provokes an anxiety, but it also renders its interior visible and open to the elements. The installation also seeks to demystify Islamic prayer for non-Muslims, lacking the fear of the other at the heart of Islamophobia. The artist says on his website, Is the artist attempting to explain the suffocating socio-religious norms of some Muslim societies that force people into mosques? Or is he trying to demystify Islam in an attempt at tackling the fear at the heart of Islamophobia? If paradise has many gates, what do these gates look like and what do they lead to? Is paradise a cage? And are the adherents to this faith prisoners? With rising rates of anti-Muslim hatred in the UK and Europe, one would hope that such institutions would pay special attention to prevent misunderstandings about Islam and stereotypes that portray its adherents as intolerant and dangerous. In early 2020, the British Museum held an exhibition titled "Inspired by the East: How the Islamic World Influenced the Western Art." The exhibition, however, would have been better off being called Orientalist Art: How the West Viewed the East. With careful narration, the display of the works of some of the most famous Orientalist artists in Europe, from Jean-Léon Gérôme and Antoine Fabre to Ludwig Dorsch and Frederick Arthur Buschmann, could have been a learning experience aimed at re-educating audiences and correcting pervasive falsehoods. But this was not the case. Instead, the exhibition was an audacious display and celebration of the European imagination of an East that merely exists in the artists' minds as something that could be molded as they saw fit. There was no commentary on the social and cultural damage that resulted from the reductionist and often inaccurate fantasies. The exhibition also failed to highlight that these celebrated pieces were almost always entirely contrived based on racist and offensive stereotypes that were du jour in Europe at that time. Was this really how the British Museum intended to demonstrate Islam's influence on Western art? Walking around this mishmash of outdated notions of Islam, revived for a new generation, proved very frustrating. The exhibition could have included the work of William Morris, Edward Burne-Jones, and others from the arts and crafts movement, or even illustrations or oil paintings that depict rich textures, patterns, and Arabic calligraphy found on silk and cloth imported from the East. The creators could have focused on art and architecture, or glass lamps, carpets, silk and fabric embroidery, or illuminated manuscripts and binding. Such a collection would have been at least a respectable start in honoring the influence Islam has had on Western art over the past millennium. The exhibition ran for 4 months and received almost universal praise, even from Muslims, for its boldness in finally recognizing Islam's influence on the world of Western art. It makes me wonder if we all saw entirely different exhibitions. It is rare that Muslims are given an opportunity to exhibit and create their culture and history, and it is even rarer for these opportunities to be provided by major European museums. The lack of vision and courage to be bold when there are now platforms for the creation and exhibition of Muslim heritage and identity is disappointing indeed. The viewpoints expressed by the authors do not necessarily reflect the opinions, viewpoints, and editorial policies of Chalkboard. We welcome all pitches and submissions to Chalkboard Opinion. Please send them via email to opinion.editorial@chalkboard.com. This week's commentary was penned by Mr. Zrar Ali, who is a writer and photographer based in London. Until next week, goodbye.
Weekly Commentary.
Turkish Cuisine.
Hello and welcome to the program Turkish Cuisine, presented by TRT's Voice of Turkey. In this program, we provide information regarding the Turkish food culture and share recipes of various Turkish dishes with you. Pastries, and especially pies and patties, have a special place in Turkish food culture. You would frequently find pastry or börek in breakfast, dinner, and even in all of the meals in a vast geography of the Middle East, Balkans, North Africa, and Central Asia. Even the names of pastry or börek are almost the same, because pastry or börek has been inherited from the Ottoman Empire in the regions ruled by the Ottomans. So what is börek or pastry after all? The easiest way to explain would be that börek or pastry is prepared by stuffing rolled dough with a variety of ingredients. Everything from ground meat to cheese, from mushroom to chicken, and from potatoes to spinach can be used as stuffing materials. It can be cooked in an oven, in a saucepan, frying in a fry pan, or cooking on a sheet iron. In this situation, you can find hundreds of börek or pastry varieties in the Turkish cuisine. Today, we will share the recipe of one of the most popular varieties of börek, known as su böreği, or layered pastry in the Turkish cuisine. Since the preparation of su böreği Here are the ingredients of su böreği, or layered pastry. 5 cups of flour, 4 eggs, 2/3 a cup of water, half a dessert spoon of salt, 2/3 cup of melted butter, 2 liters of hot water to boil the dough, half a dessert spoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 400 grams of feta cheese, half a bunch of thinly chopped parsley. Let's repeat the ingredients. 5 cups of flour, 4 eggs, 2/3 of a cup of water, half a dessert spoon of salt, 2/3 of a cup of melted butter, 2 liters of hot water to boil the dough, half a dessert spoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 400 grams of feta cheese, half a bunch of thinly chopped parsley. And now the preparation of su böreği, or layered pastry. Net 5 cups of flour, 4 eggs, 2/3 a cup of water, and half a dessert spoon of salt, all together in a medium stiffness. Make 10 small dough balls, cover them with a cloth, and keep them for about an hour. In the meantime, mash feta cheese with a fork and mix with parsley to prepare stuffing of your su böreği, or layered pastry. Boil 2 liters of water in a wide cauldron and then add half a dessert spoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of olive oil into boiling water. Thinly roll dough balls on a floured counter in the size of an oven tray. Cook this rolled dough in boiling water for about 30 to 35 seconds. Now immediately take out cooked dough layers into a container filled with cold water. Take out rolled dough from cold water after 10 to 15 seconds with the help of a strainer and filter out water. Grease oven tray with melted butter. Spread one of the rolled dough layers on the bottom of the oven tray. Then grease its top with 1 tablespoon of melted butter. Repeat the same procedure for the remaining 4 dough layers. Now evenly spread the cheese stuffing on top of the 5th dough layer. Roll the rest of the dough balls in thin layers, boil them as you did it before, and place them in the buttered oven tray. Grease the last layer with plenty of melted butter with a brush. Slice sudori or layered pastry in 5 to 6 centimeters squared with a sharp knife before putting the oven tray in an oven preheated at 190 degrees Celsius and cook until the top layer gets dark brown color. Take out sudori or layered pastry from the oven and serve hot. Today we have shared the recipe of the dish sudori or layered pastry in our program Turkish Cuisine. Until we meet again in another program with more Turkish delicacies, goodbye. Turkish Cuisine.
This is the voice of Turkey. They're bringing Turkey's voice to the whole world.
Turkey's geomarked products.